Welcome back, family. So, on my last episode, I covered the phenomenon known as the passport bros. Like I told you before, it's nothing new, but it has triggered women in a way that is not too positive. They're not too happy with this movement. It is a movement where men, Western men, are going overseas to find traditional women because they're sick and tired of dealing with these modern women. So they're going overseas to find their wives, girlfriends, whatever else, and it seems to have stirred up something in these women who initially rejected these men and feel that this movement is somewhat predatory. Well, regardless of what you think about it, it's happening, it's been happening, but again, it's recently been branded and it's come up in conversation once again. So, I was told by a close friend of mine who saw this episode that I should cover the idea of HOEFLATIon. That is where men, today's men, are having to sacrifice a lot more to deal with the women in their presence, the Western women, and getting 20 times less than what they bargained for. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but we need to cover one thing. Before we go any further, we need to set some precedents. For one, what is a high-value man and what is a high-value woman? This term was made famous by the now deceased Kevin Samuels, but he suggests that men and women in their sexual marketplace value are defined in values by different qualifications. For a man, it's his earning potential, where he is on a social ladder, and his ability to take care of a woman, being a protector and a provider. For a woman, it's quite the opposite. It's actually her looks, her cooperation, her fitness, her relatability, her submissiveness, those kind of things. And he's saying it, and a lot of people object to it, but it's nothing new. Again, nothing new under the sun. He's just verbalizing it. But I gotta tell you, most of it, not all, were true. A man has no inherent value until he makes himself valuable. Women are born naturally with value. And at a certain time in your life as a woman, between, 21 to 25 is your peak. It's the peak of your value, because most likely than not, you're gonna be without child. You're gonna be the most fit and beautiful as you're ever gonna be. And that's what makes a woman more valuable. As for a man, the older you get, in your 30s, 35, then that's when you hit your financial stride. That's what makes you worth something. You have to build yourself to be something as a man, whereas a woman is naturally born with value. It seems commonplace and common knowledge. It is something that's unspoken, but a lot of people did have issues with the fact that here is a man putting this on the forefront, and a lot of people didn't like it. Men and women just didn't like what this dude had to say. So before we move on, we need to examine this scale real quick. It's the 80-20 scale, which is referred to as the Pareto principle in business. It's a theory that suggests that 20% of the top earners in business earn 80% of the funds that are coming into the business. So they've applied this model to the dating system. And as you can see here, the top 20 men have access to all of the women on the chart, while the top 20 women only date the top 20 men. As this chart indicates, the top 20 women only actually goes for the 1%, okay? Meanwhile, the top 20, the top level men have access to everything on the table as it comes to the women.
Are you against passport bros, or?
I understand the fundamentals of it for those who have done everything in life to make sure they are a man. But if you're not a man, I don't think you deserve that, honestly. Because not only that, you're going to be with a girl, you're going to make her miserable. She's going to have kids with you. And that's just a whole generation of...
What do you mean you're going to make her miserable?
If you don't have your life together, what makes you think you know how to appreciate a traditional wife?
Oh, so you're saying in the context of passport bros?
Yeah, because I mean, we're talking about like relationships here. He has 3
I do agree
that he
with
can
that
handle.
somewhat.
He could do that, but if
have
some
to have
other
your life
guy
together.
who's living here, who's never had an idea of what a male figure is in his life, he's going based off of whatever little content he picks from the internet. He's saying, well, I want a traditional wife, but therefore he doesn't even have like a credit score. He doesn't even have like his life in check. He's still driving the hoopty from high school. But you want a traditional girl. Like, what happens when you bring that girl over here? You're gonna basically make her a Western woman, and she's gonna realize like this guy really doesn't have his shit together. Now she's gonna cheat on you.
You know what the solution to that is? Don't bring it to America.
I think that's a cop-out. I think that's a cop-out.
It's the solution, though.
Why do you think she married you? For the American culture. You're going to marry her and keep her in her country when she really wants to come over here. I think that's selfish.
I agree with your hypothesis that most of the girls that are probably
Yeah.
matching up with these hot passport boys,
I have
or
so
whatever,
many- yeah.
they're doing it for the green card. I get the point now.
The key thing when it comes to the passport bros is men in Western countries are dissatisfied with the behavior of Western modern women, and they're looking to South America and Asia for more feminine traditional women.
I think you're a bit ignorant to like the average guy's experience. Consider this, right? The average guy today, his granddad had to put in a quarter of the work to get the kind of woman that is 4 times as amazing. His grandmother was an amazing woman and a very, very feminine, natural woman. And his granddad really didn't have to do the kind of work he has to do right now as a young man in the Western world.
So you're talking about HOEFLATION.
Yes, totally.
HOEFLATION. So modern men have to work 5 times harder than their grandfathers did for women 20 times worse than what their grandmothers were. Women are asking for way more now and bringing the least.
I'm just saying there's hope is all I'm saying. There is hope.
We're not saying that there aren't good women in Western countries. That's not what we're saying at all. However, there are certain realities in the dating landscape. For example, it's kind of always been the case, but when social media was introduced and when dating apps were introduced, you basically have women who are all chasing after the top tier of men. Hypergamy, I'm sure you're familiar with the term.
All right, y'all, as you can see, I'm a new channel trying to grow. If you like the content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Please be sure to leave a like if you've gotten this far, and click the notification bell so you know when I upload new content. Thank you for your help. Now let's get back to our program.
Modern men have to work 5 times harder than their grandfathers.
For 20 times worse.
For women 20 times worse than what their grandmothers were. What are your thoughts on HOEFLATION? Anybody have any comments on this?
That's why we need to bring traditional values back. They're so important. This generation is so lost.
Yeah,
so people
it's never happening though, unfortunately. Yeah. I think feminism and modern day society has afforded women so many benefits and privileges that traditional relationships no longer afford them, that they're like, dude, you're telling me I can have my cake and eat it too? Why the fuck am I going to be a housewife? Fuck that shit.
The floodgates are open.
So sad.
Anybody have a comment on this? Well, hopefully, I thought you would have a comment on it. You were outspoken about the OnlyFans girls.
Yeah, yeah, feminism, women ruin everything. Feminism has ruined everything for women too. They think that they're fighting for women, but it's actually hurting women the most, and that's the sad thing. And too many women are just hearing, become an OnlyFans girl, make your bread, be a boss babe, and it just is it's honestly a trap. It's leading them down to a life worth of misery, and before they know it, they will be too old to have kids, and no man will want them, because the older they get, the more experiences they have, their value goes down. And that's why I try to speak up about it, because I feel like not enough young women are hearing this side of things. And I actually got into a Twitter fight recently with Iggy Azalea, because her failed rapping career led her to do OnlyFans, and
oh shit,
she actually asked my husband for a dick pic too on Twitter. It was a very strange, sad situation.
What?
Yeah,
the mighty have fallen.
She's wild, but she tells young girls to start OnlyFans, and she's promoting it. And it's just like, I think it's very different if a girl used to do OnlyFans and kind of speaks down upon it and says this is not right for women. But it's a difference when you see these women, and like you guys have said, women by nature are followers, so they will follow all these girls that they idolize. And so many young women think it's okay to do OnlyFans, not knowing the consequences that are inevitable, like not being able to find a high value husband. So that's why I like to speak out against it.
I'm telling you, it's not true factually. In the 70s, before they got Planned Parenthood, went in the classroom and started funding initiatives, and they started teaching sex education. There used to not be sex education in school, and the way that they got it into the classroom in the 70s was by saying,
because without us hoes, you wouldn't have like that many views to be watching, right? You have hoes come on the podcast to talk about our...
I'm not knocking hoes.
Well,
I don't want to be a hoe.
I don't want to be a hoe. I'm saying you have hoes, and when I say you have hoes coming onto the podcast, you know you're a hoe.
Do
you're
you mean
a hoe.
Literal hoe, or like more of the colloquial?
That's Brian's dream.
You know what I mean?
You have hoes, Brian.
So you sit here and you want to bash sex workers, but we come on here.
Bash anybody. I don't think anybody has bashed.
He's bringing you on here and giving you a platform to speak. So I think that if he was going to be bashing you, he wouldn't even allow anybody on.
The hero of hoes.
Wait, what do you mean making what?
making a scene.
I'm not making anybody seem any
you know,
sort of
like
No, I'm just talking
we're
about a video.
Trending, we're a trending topic, so it's relevant to speak on.
Because it's interesting.
Wait, what?
It's
Yeah.
fascinating. I am
That's what I'm
fascinated by hoes. I'll say it. I'm absolutely fascinated by the way the hoe mind works, the way the hoe hive works. I'm fascinated.
Next
I cover it on
documentary.
my show. You
And
are
it is
correct. It
trending.
is
I'm
trending.
saying, and that's why
when
it's such a
Emma
hot
gets
topic
up
to
and does a
speak about.
video and says something like, it's chic to be divorced before you're 30. It is absolutely fascinating to see how someone's mind can be so warped. In the same way that I think it's fascinating when anybody does anything crazy or says anything crazy, and I cover it on my podcast. I am not knocking it at all. I just tell people what the facts are. You can choose this lifestyle, and here is where you are 99.9% likely to lead in your life, right? You are probably not destined for marriage. You're probably not destined for a stable relationship. Men are going to not want this long term. You can say it 1,000 times. You can have 1,000 cultural examples, and women's still got to go out there and be hoes, because they're about their money and about a Cardi B song or whatever it is. So yes, I think it is fascinating, and it is why I wanted to, talk. This is why I talk about it on my podcast, and why I'm very interested to talk to you guys. I hope you guys feel that I've been respectful in listening to, your lifestyles, even though it's so different from mine. And so I appreciate Brian for hosting.
Well, thank you for coming, Candace. Let's see. I have a couple chats here, and then I have one more question, and then I think Candace will have to leave here in a moment. We have Yvonne. Oh, okay.
Modern Life Dating donated $199. Hey Candace. Thank you for being a voice of common sense and a good representation of being a decent woman in today's modern perverse time. What are your thoughts on the passport bro movement of men leaving America for better wives abroad?
Hey, John, thank you very much for the TTS. Maybe a brief little snippet on this, if you
Yes. Yeah, I think that you can find higher quality women in other places. Like, I married an Englishman. I think America.
Are you a passport? Not a bro, but like a
cis.
A passport cis.
Passport cis.
There you go.
Yeah, I think that America has really lowered the cultural standards for women more than any. You don't see this kind of, even just the way women dress in America compared to England fascinates me. And so, yeah, I think find a wife, do what you gotta do, but also don't discount the South, because there are so many good women in the South in America. Come to Tennessee. They're wonderful.
So, do I believe in this theory of HOEFLATION? Yes. The idea that men aren't getting the type of women that our forefathers got is true. We are in a new age, a new society. We can't really compare it. Understand this, and I haven't heard a lot of people bring this up, but women have more choices these days. Back in the days, you weren't afforded the type of choices that you have today. Today, women are choosing to be career women, becoming educated, as opposed to just sitting there in a house, making a house, tending to the babies. They're not doing that anymore. Yeah, it does make them a little less traditional, but it doesn't mean that these are bad people. And also, gotta keep in mind, there is such thing as a broflation as well. The women aren't getting the type of men that their grandmothers got. These men, especially in the Western world, they don't mature until very late in life, into the 30s even. You find a lot of cases where 25-year-old men, 30-year-old men are living in their parents' basement, playing video games all day, jerking off, drinking beer, and doing nothing productive. These type of men don't deserve women, but you find them on the internet saying, well, we can't find a traditional wife. Well, you don't deserve one. You have to be something. You have to make yourself into something before you can ask for a woman's hand in marriage. So it goes both ways. HOEFLATION is real, but then so is broflation. We're not getting what our grandparents got because today's world doesn't afford for it very often. But doesn't mean that there aren't good people out there. Of course there are. You're just gonna have to weed out through the filth before you get to the diamond. And that's my take on it. I don't think there's anything wrong with the idea, and women shouldn't be offended by it. It's a new age, it's a new era, it's a new time. And again, guys who are pointing out to the women saying, you guys aren't like your grandmother, you could look in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm not like my grandfather. It took me a lot longer to mature than my grandfather did. Thank you for checking me out one more time. Catch you on the next one.